When Riot Games first announced Valorant, the hero shooter genre was already well past showing its age. And yet it managed to stand out with its focus on tactical shooting, realistic weapon behavior, and competitive-focused gameplay. So what does that say about Bad Guitar Studios' Fragpunk, arriving several years after Valorant with its own twist on the specific hero shooter subgenre? Just that a deck of cards can't always revitalize an experience, even if the overall fundamentals are worth checking out. Fragpunk occurs in a sleek, futuristic setting where a mysterious, reality-altering material called Glunnite has been discovered and harnessed into shard cards. Activating cards can result in all kinds of effects, from flipping reality to changing the behavior of guns. As such, various mercenaries known as Lancers want to get their hands on this material to make more cards. To what end? Well, the cinematic trailer does shine some light on this, but good luck trying to learn any of that in the game. And that's fine. It provides enough reason to fight other Lancers, though I question the practice of using shard cards to obtain more material to make more shard cards. Perhaps there's something about the endless cycle of battle for potentially limited resources. At its core, Fragpunk is more or less akin to Valorant. It's 5v5, each player controlling a unique agent, or Lancer. You have the buy phase where you can acquire primary, secondary, and melee weapons. Each of your abilities has specific charges that won't replenish mid-combat. The main mode is Shard Clash, where one team is in charge of planting a shard converter, while the other must defend. Play enough rounds and both sides eventually switch roles. The cards are at the heart of the experience. Before a round, each side can invest shard points into a card of choice, adding a modifier to tip the scales. Activating Big Head mode for enemies, increasing the size of their head hitbox and allowing for easier headshots. Deactivating healing for the enemy team, enhancing a random weapon in your arsenal. And one of my favorites, putting all of your reserve ammo into a single magazine and unleashing it all in one burst are some of the highlights. Depending on the effect, players must invest more shard points into a card to activate it, and you can field multiple cards at once or refresh a current option. It's also possible to strengthen a card's effect with more shard points, thus turning a relatively normal option into something far more potent. Shard points are obtained from dealing damage, assists, kills, and more. Thus, even if your team is curb-stomped in the first round or two, it's possible to make a comeback using more potent shard cards from the points accumulated thus far. However, a more complex economy is notable only in longer shard clash matches. For the regular standard format, where it's 4 rounds to victory, snowballs feel way more likely with little chance to turn things around other than raw skill. However, the same applies to a team that invests too many shard points when things are going well, potentially ending up on the back foot if your opponents turn things around. Otherwise, adding cards to this kind of competitive shooter format is fine. They're only active for a specific round and not the entire match, which is understandable to prevent things from falling into complete anarchy. I did enjoy swapping out for the tried and true SMG for an automatic shotgun once Dragon's Breath became active, unleashing a swarm of hail and dealing ignite damage over time to an unlucky enemy. But these instances of drastically altering your overall setup felt few and far between. If anything, they're fun modifiers which spice up the otherwise overtly familiar gameplay. Fragpunk tries other ways to change things, like a knockout system for weapons. If you're defeated in a round, your previously chosen weapon is locked out, so you need to select another or loot it from an enemy. The visual style is also super colorful, brimming with graffiti and effects that stop just short of feeling too overwhelming at times. The shooting mechanics and overall weapon feedback feel enjoyable, even if they're leaning away from than your typical tactical shooter. The duel is a substitute for overtime and pits teams in 1v1 battles until one side is completely wiped out, which is neat.
Forgot why we're here.
But they can't hide Fragpunk's most glaring problem in a nutshell. You've seen this before, albeit in other, more compelling titles. This includes the slower, more methodical movement that encourages corner peeking and not simply rushing in, swapping to your melee weapon to move a bit faster. The maps have multiple sightlines and flanking routes, though they don't feel as naturally integrated at times as Valorant's, even if they beat it in terms of sheer visual fidelity. The various Lancer abilities are also nothing too out of the ordinary, ranging from your typical scanning, turrets and remote-controlled allies, to detection beacons, camouflage, and entering the void to avoid damage, but not being able to see enemy players. It all works well enough, though there are some periods of awkwardness and very little feels non-derivative, which is a shame because of how cool the Lancers themselves look. Then again, their sleek design belie the lack of organic interactions between the characters. Everyone has their quips and voice lines, even the announcer to an annoying degree at times, but they otherwise come off as strangers to one another. I would argue that this kind of approach to character interactions would make more sense in Valorant rather than Fragpunk's more casual, over-the-top identity, but your mileage may vary. When you're bored of Shard Clash, you could try other modes like Team Deathmatch or Infection. The latter seemed promising, but turns out laughable, given the lopsided advantage survivors have over the infected and how annoyingly long the matches can last. Otherwise, you have the standard challenges and events, the latter focusing on completing additional tasks. Thus, we arrive at the sheer amount of currencies and microtransactions inherent in Fragpunk. And I get it, it's a free-to-play game, it's all cosmetic. Valorant charges plenty of exorbitant prices for their skins, and even Overwatch 2 brought back loot boxes. But even if you can justify all of that, there's no denying that Fragpunk makes it needlessly difficult to navigate all of this. I still don't know what weapon keys do, why soda cans are gacha, and even how we got to this point. Even if you ignore all the cosmetic nonsense, you still have to unlock additional Lancers with gold or Fragpunk coins acquired by spending real money. At least all the Shard cards are free forever.
Converter is now converting, I guess.
Which one were you? Yin or yang? That makes 3.
One left. Hunt them down.
Even without the sheer abundance of monetization, Fragpunk is a solid, if mostly inspired, in the nicest way possible, competitive shooter. The bombastic style and gunplay can be fun, especially with the unpredictability that the cards add, but the real meat of tactics and depth of weapon mastery feel somewhat wanting. Whether it can evolve further and establish its own niche or fall behind its superior inspirations remains to be seen, but for now, it's enjoyable enough. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.